You're listening to STEMxm, where women in science, technology, engineering and mathematics share their stories of success, overcoming barriers, and breaking the glass ceiling. And now, your host, Mel the Engineer.
Hello and welcome. I am your host, Mel the Engineer. Thank you for joining me today and for downloading episode 22. Here on STEMxm, we explore cool careers in science, technology, engineering, and math, and we hear the stories of awesome women in these fields. Are you ready for this? All right, well, buckle up. This episode is part 2 of our chat with Dr. Tracy Fanara. Dr. Trey has a PhD in environmental engineering. She is a hotshot manager at Mote Marine Laboratory, and she's been on Mythbusters The Search. How cool is that? So if you haven't listened to part 1, pause right here and go back and listen to episode 21. And for the rest of you, let's rewind real quick and listen to the last question from episode 21, and then we'll get on with part 2 from there. All right, here we go. So how is Mote Marine primarily funded?
It's 100% through grants and donations. We're completely soft money.
Okay.
It's a nonprofit organization.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you something, and you can tell me that you don't want to answer this, and we'll move on.
No, that's fine.
Okay. So you just mentioned that you got this new grant to work on the microscope, and then you put in an application. You put in a grant application for another project that you hope you'll get to work on with these other researchers. And Mote Marine itself is grant funded and funded with donations. So we're in this really interesting political time right now when I'm talking to you and we're recording this. Do you have any thoughts that you might want to share on how important grants,
of course,
through things like NSF are?
Without grants from NSF, EPA, state-funded opportunities, we would all be out of jobs. So the people that have worked so hard to make peanuts to make the world a better place will be out of jobs. I know that's kind of harsh to say, but it's it's real life, and the way that we can stop that from happening is communicating science in a way that people can understand, and in a way that satisfies the motivations of the audience. So you can say the same thing, but focus on something. For example, low impact development. Okay, low impact development will save taxpayers money, save municipalities money by reducing the cost of water treatment technologies. The amount of times filters need to be changed, for example. In development, it will limit the amount of pipes needed or the amount of space needed for a pond. You focus on those kind of things. For red tide, for example, tourism. We want people to come from up north and enjoy the Gulf Coast of Florida. So red tide research, the way that we would communicate that is, we want people from New York that come down to Sarasota to have a beach experience. And if their first experience, they go to a beach and they're coughing and their eyes are itching, they're going to think that that's how Gulf Coast beaches are, and they're never going to come back. Like tools like the BCRS and citizen science, those outreach tools. And in addition, that red tide research will help the public, help the economy, and help tourism. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, that makes sense. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on that. Okay, so you remember where we left off now, right? Okay, so we're going to pick up the conversation directly from that point where we left off. Before we get to that, though, I'm going to offer something special for a limited time only. This episode is going to be released at the beginning of May in 2017. So I'll say that through the end of May 2017, so until May 31st, if you sign up for the STEMxm email list, I will give you an uncut MP3 copy of my conversation with Tracy. That means that there won't be any editing and you can hear the full conversation in its original form. If you're already on my email list and you'd like to hear the uncut version, just send an email to STEMxm@gmail.com and I'll send it to you. I'll chat with you more about this at the end of the episode, and we'll have some more info on the show notes page about it as well. So for now, let's get back into the talk with Tracy.
Honestly, like this is that's why communication is just so key. It really is, like for the general public and for stakeholders and regulators, politicians.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're alluding to, we as engineers and scientists have not always done a good job with public outreach. And I think that's starting to change a little bit. And, some people, especially like you, and I would say even, like Lynn, have this bigger picture view, when they think about a watershed and, the interactions of all the municipalities, there's just a different view there and an understanding of the need to be able to communicate across different levels. So across the citizen stakeholders and the politicians and, we who
You're
are
exactly
doing
right.
the design. Yeah.
You want to take the science out of politics. You want to bring it to a level that everybody understands that it impacts them.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. Okay, I'm gonna kind of circle back now. So thank you so much for talking about this work that you've done at Moat and that you're working on now. It's really so awesome. So just briefly,
Mythbusters.
Yeah, why don't you tell us about how that came about and
okay.
Really what I want to get out of that is, what did you take away from that? Like what stands out to this day most from that experience?
Okay, you might have to ask me that question again.
Okay, yeah, let me
Yeah.
Well, let's just start with how it happened.
Yeah. Let's start there. So through my PhD, I really wanted to do a chapter on outreach and education. It got booted, it was too soft science, and my committee encouraged me to focus on the hard science.
That hurts.
Yeah, it does. But at the same time, I really grew a passion for a bigger picture, not even bigger than watershed. It's a human health, like connecting environment to human health. That was really something that I learned through trying to do that chapter. So through that, I made a video at the University of Florida about stormwater and Lake Alice, which has been known for eutrophication. And then all of a sudden, there was no more algae blooms, but there were way less fish. So we got to the bottom of that, and turns out that the University of Florida was adding copper sulfate to combat the impacts of the fertilizer use at the athletic fields. And I don't know if they're still doing that now. I think that they were trying to get away from that. So from that, I started my job at Moat, and a big part of that position is to have communication to the public and outreach. And I got a call. I'm not sure who submitted my name, but I got a call from the producer of Mythbusters, and he had seen my video and wanted a Skype meeting. So I went through and I did the Skype meeting. I knew it wasn't the perfect fit. Mythbusters was typically non-scientists and engineers presenting science and engineering to other non-scientists and engineers. And they were fabricators and builders. And that just wasn't me. I was a design engineer. I was really good with science and math and explaining that. But as far as welding, that was going to be completely new to me. And I knew that going in. But, the reason that I really felt strongly about the education and outreach on a platform such as TV was because my 11-year-old cousin came over. She came down from Buffalo, and she was showing me her Instagram, and she was just obsessing over these reality stars, with just values that I wouldn't want her to have. Just a different kind of focus on life than what I wanted for her, what I saw for her. And she didn't see her potential with school. She just, she wanted to take pictures on Instagram and put makeup on at 11 years old. And I just, it broke my heart. And I wanted to give her a better role model to look up to on TV. So when this opportunity for Mythbusters came around, I knew it wasn't the perfect fit, but I had to take it. So I went and I did it, and it was a great experience. I learned so much, and now all the designs that I was doing at Moat Marine, I am now turning them into actual builds as well as the design. So, for example, that stormwater treatment technology, I'm actually going to make it and build the infiltration trenches and test it that way. So it really has impacted me that way. In addition, I realized how much I need to learn about science communication. I improved so much during that show and since the show especially. And I learned a lot about TV and how it works and what to look for. And for myself, I realized that TV is great, but the science and the real research is what's going to change the world. The TV is just the vessel to which it's moved forward. So if I do TV again, which I'm probably going to, it's going to have to be the right fit, and I have to see the greater impact of that project to take me away from research for a little bit to do that, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. That's really awesome. It's so great that you did get that opportunity. And I can just imagine going through that it probably did help you learn some better ways to communicate at the level that you're talking about, where it's really accessible to people. And that is really invaluable.
Right. You're exactly right. To open people's minds to something that they didn't think about, to change the way people see something and see how the world works, and to inspire a curiosity of how everything is connected is something that, I mean, when you see it happen, it's just like the most motivating thing. You just want to keep on teaching. It really does. Every person can change the world.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. So that takes us, that segues us really well into my last couple of questions. We're coming up on time, and I want to be respectful of your time. So to wrap up today, I want to ask, what is something that you have found incredibly gratifying about your work?
That is a really, like, to pinpoint that down to like one sentence, because there's different aspects. Okay, so a couple things are, extremely gratifying. First of all, to give people answers. For example, this red tide work, it's something that I never thought I would ever be into. But when you hear someone that suffers from lung cancer, COPD, or asthma on the other line, sincerely worried about going to the beach with their family on their one vacation that they get, it's heartbreaking. At the same time, it's empowering to give people that information to protect themselves so that they can still do the things that they want to in life without it harming them in the long term. And I know that that's kind of red tide specific, but
that's a great example.
Yeah. But even, on a broader level, just to, the most gratifying thing is seeing people be educated, seeing that, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that, look, and knowing that they are going to change their behavior because now they know. For example, like throwing things out the car window. with stormwater and how, that goes to their natural water bodies. A lot of people think that it gets filtered out at a wastewater treatment plant. So little things like that.
Well, but they're big things. And what stood out to me about both the examples you gave is that you can see ways that your work is directly influencing and impacting people for the better.
You're exactly right. And that would have probably been easier if I just said that.
No, your examples were better. That was great. Okay, Tracy, well, I just want to ask if you've got any kind of last advice that you might want to give to young folks interested in STEM, particularly women.
My advice, and part of this is going to be a little strange and probably not what other people say, is find your passion and follow it, whatever it is. And don't get sidetracked by things like, who's mad at who, because that all passes. Your real friends will be your real friends. And someday you're going to find love and get married, and it's going to be great. But really do what makes you happy. And if science and engineering and math, if that makes you happy, then give your all to it. That's about it. That kind of sums it up.
Is that Tracy's life philosophy?
It is right now. I'm sure in 5 minutes I'll come up with something different. No, I mean, and that's specifically, and the reason why I say that is because when I taught in SPICE, I taught 7th grade science. 7th grade is really the age that you make that decision, whether you're going to stick with science or not. You miss a week of class, you're distracted, and all of a sudden you're behind. The minute you're behind, you don't like it anymore. Everybody likes things that they're good at. And that's why, that's why that age where the girls are starting to like the boys, and I notice that the boys aren't starting to like the girls quite yet as much. They start a little bit later than the girls do. But I even saw from the beginning of the year to the end of the year how the girls' motivations changed. And that age group is so critical to not, get too distracted. All that stuff's fun, but at the same time, science is something that'll stick with you through a lifetime.
Yeah, I think that the influences are many, but what you're saying is backed up by research that that age is critical. So this, I think it's 6th through 8th grade kind of range, is when girls have been shown to start losing their interest in STEM subjects, and I think that's influenced by quite a few different things, particularly in our society, But you're right. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And our hormones too. You know what I mean? Like it just, that age is a tough age. Yeah, I guess the advice that I would have for young girls is to just follow their passion, stick to their goals, find out what makes them happy, and stay with it. There's going to be tons of distractions throughout middle school, but just keep school and science is one of those priorities as you go through, and you'll be grateful that you did.
Yeah, that's awesome advice. I think the only thing I would add to that too is if you struggle with it, don't give up.
Oh my God, that's so true. That's so true. If you struggle with it, do not give up. Do not give up. And I mean, and I could say that for me, this is kind of different, I guess. So I needed glasses at the age of 5. And everybody, because I had glasses, everybody just assumed I was smart. I had to work really hard to meet that expectation. And struggling is really, when you're struggling with something, that's when you have that breakthrough. And that's when you really get to that next level. You can't get to that next level without that struggle. And that's what every professor has ever said to me about graduate school too. If you're not struggling with that research, if you're not really getting, having a hard time with coming to that next level, that next breakthrough, you can't bring yourself to that next level. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great answer and explanation. It was so great chatting with you, Tracy. Thank you so much for joining us today on STEMxm. It's been such a pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much. This was great. I really appreciate it.
Hey guys, as you can probably tell, I had a great time chatting with Tracy, and we actually kept talking after this point. And so she gave some advice for early career professionals that I wanted to include. So I'm going to give you that snippet here really quick, and then I'll be back with you to talk about show notes.
And I probably should have mentioned that, when you go for a job, it's really important. Everybody says dress for the part you want, not the part you have. It's really important that you do keep it professional, no matter, how lax or how comfortable it is, and really be on time. If they give you between 7:30 and 9:30 to be there before 8:30. Perception is reality was the biggest thing that I learned going into consulting. It was a hard lesson for me to learn because I'm kind of a rebel. So, but it wasn't worth it. Just get up, just get to work, because, if you're there on Facebook for 2 hours, it looks like you're a harder worker than the person that's staying till 9:30 at night, like I was.
Mm-hmm.
Because no one sees you there between 5 and 9:30.
Yep. But they do notice if you're there before they get there every day.
You're exactly right.
Yep.
And and for me, I'd have to run these models, these countywide models, which would take 8 hours. So I would have to go in at 2 a.m, 4 a.m, depending on when, because we had deadlines. I had to change something and run it again with a different pipe size or a different control structure, for example. But no one was seeing that. So it just looked like I was slacking off. And, the same thing happened at CH2M Hill, because I was working on a Saudi Arabia project. So I was working from midnight until 4 a.m. with the client in Saudi Arabia. And on, Sunday is a work day for them, or maybe it's Saturday, I don't remember. But it was the same thing there. But luckily the client communicated to my supervisor, all the hours that I was putting in. So that actually ended up okay. But at first he was like, "Why are you putting these hours on the timesheet when I don't see you here?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, yeah, that was awkward."
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, perception is reality. That's a big one.
Thank you again for joining me here on episode 22, part 2 with Dr. Tracy Fanara. Like I mentioned at the beginning, I'm offering to send you an unedited, uncut MP3 copy of the entire chat with Tracy through the month of May 2017. All you need to do is sign up for the STEMxm email list by visiting STEMxm.com and signing up there. So you have until May 31st, 2017 to sign up and get access to that. This is going to conclude the Water and Wastewater series. I'll have more water professionals on in the future. I may even do another series like this, but for now we'll be exploring some other professions in STEM. I'm so grateful to you for listening. If you think STEMxm could be a good career resource for someone you know, whether that's a student or maybe a high school teacher or an organization looking to get more students into STEM, I'd be so grateful if you shared the STEMxm podcast with them. The more listeners we can get, the more likely this podcast will be a success long term. So thank you again for downloading and supporting the show. And as usual, you can find today's show notes at www.stemxm.com/episode 22. That's episode and then the number 22. All right, that's all I've got for you today, so I'll chat with you next time. Bye, guys.
This has been an episode of the STEMxm podcast. Thank you for listening. We would really love if you could pop over to iTunes and give us an honest, positive rating. It helps more listeners find us to learn about STEM careers. Thanks again, cheers, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Just say